For this week's video blog, I looked at neoevolution and its potential impacts on society. Neoevolution can be described as more or less a new evolution. According to scholar Julian Stewart, neoevolutionism is society either adapting or changing their environment in some way. In this process, technology can be used to either expand upon or exploit certain elements of a society in the interest of improving that society or its environment. Harvey Feinberg presents a wonderful example in his presentation on neoevolution by asking some simple questions to his audience about why they would like to change or what they would like to change in their lives if they could. Some answered they would like to live longer, some answered they would like to be more creative, but the whole premise of the idea was that through manipulation of genes, these results could potentially be possible. Using technology to influence the natural progression of evolution is the essence of neoevolution. The evolutionary process has now changed from the more traditional theories that we would look at, such as Darwinian theory, to that of a more self-directed process based more on the needs or desires of a society. Paul Wolpe expresses yet another great example of this self-directed evolution with his comparison to the specific breeding of animals. He asks a very simple question of the actual dogs, and how many dogs that we have now that we can consider to be companions or pets. None of them are natural anymore. They've all been products of specific breeding. Looking at his example of those dogs, we can reflect on those specific breeding practices and how are they enforcing what society actually wants or needs. Dogs could be bred that are made to shed less or have greater stamina for hunting, or possibly even dogs that have more acute senses of smell, such as those used for military or police practices. All these are examples of how genetic manipulation or specific breeding practices can alter the path of the evolution of the dogs to change the environment to the will of the society that they're serving. And society is able to look at attributes of a specific species or even gene and use technology to either influence or engineer changes to help the evolutionary process to create an outcome that will benefit society in a way that we deem appropriate. One specific example of a technological process that reflects this process is that of prenatal care practices used in pregnancies, and some of the testing that goes along with that. Reflecting on the birth of our children, many factors lead up to that day. Many questions about specific procedures were asked to be answered throughout the course of the pregnancy, and a lot of those answers were based on some of our feelings and our beliefs. But some of those were to possibly predict any health or anatomical or even potential mental health issues that we would need to have special requirements during the birth process, such as presence of a NICU nurse or specialized equipment in the birthing room along with us. While others were optional testing that we could do to give us answers before the child was born. There are now tests such as those that can be elected to go through by the mother to determine such things as Down syndrome. Other tests such as ultrasounds can be used to predetermine other anatomical or physiological attributes of the unborn child, including that of the sex of the baby. One of the more controversial tests is the one I mentioned before, though, however, the amniocentesis test, which tests an unborn child for the presence of Down syndrome. This specific test is used to help determine if an unborn child will be born with the Down syndrome or if they have the extra chromosome that indicates the disease is present. This is a minimally invasive test that uses a small needle to draw amniotic fluid from the womb to test for certain genetic characteristics such as the additional chromosome. These tests will give a more accurate determination of whether or not the child will be born with this disease. There are some benefits to this technology in this type of a test. It is a way to inform parents of potential hazards or complications that may be encountered during birth. According to a text, Testing Women, Testing the Fetus, The Social Impact of Amniocentesis in America by author Raina Rapp, many women will opt for the testing even if they have no plans to intervene on the pregnancy, even if the tests come back positive for the additional chromosome that represents Down syndrome. In many cases, she presents the would-be mothers express the interest of just simply wanting to know so they could better prepare themselves. In other more controversial implications, some mothers stated they wanted to know because they did not want to have the burden of a child with that disease, or they had already made up their minds that if the test would come back, at that point the pregnancy would still be in an early enough stage that they would elect to terminate the pregnancies and abort the child. As you can imagine, this creates quite a bit of controversy over the moral implications of such an act. Very similar to what Francis Fukuyama discusses in Chapter 3 of our text with stem cell research debates. While the use of the stem cells can provide vital information and means to extend life by becoming potentially any tissue or organ in the body with limited chances of being rejected, it does require the destruction of a fetus, an act viewed by some to be unacceptable even if it means prolonging life or potentially removing diseases from a society. When looking at the drawbacks, I return to the works of Rainer Rapp for further information. First is the small percentage of women that can actually cause a miscarriage simply by having this test done. This will terminate a pregnancy even if the result of the test would have been negative for the disease. However, this drawback has helped with the technological evolution of other tests that are now becoming much less invasive, such as tags that can be seen through ultrasound or different scans to help also detect the disease, but are arguably less accurate. The other drawback, and could also be considered an ethical implication, is the termination of a life that, if not for the disease, would be normal. Also, the presence of the extra chromosome indicates the disease, but it does not indicate the level of the disability that will be inherited by the child. The child could grow to be a very high-functioning member of society, or one that will need round-the-clock specialized care. The honest answer is no one will know that until the time comes, regardless of what the test shows. The test will only show that the disease is present, not to the extent it will affect the child. So is it moral and ethical to terminate a life with that many unknowns? And therein lies the source of the controversy surrounding this type of testing and the implications it may bring with it. Again, similar to the stem cell research argument, it may improve the quality of the society, but what of the potential life it will destroy in the process? While the technology of prenatal testing, and more specifically amniocentesis, is a controversial subject, and one that has many views, I personally view it as a technology that we should continue to pursue, along with the whole neo-evolutionary theory. That being said, I do wish to clarify that I am not in favor of just terminating a life solely because a test indicates that they will be born with a disease, more than I am in favor of the continual neo-evolution of the technologies to help increase the odds of detecting these diseases or other implications that could cause problems at birth. Knowing about the diseases, or whether there's a genetic, mental, or anatomical, or even physiological problem before the birth, can be an asset when it comes to helping provide the potential life with all the help and guidance that it may need. Parents can become aware and counseled ahead of time as to treatments and resources they may need. Also, in predetermining these diseases at a fetal stage, we may also be giving researchers the opportunity to further examine some of the reasons why these diseases develop and give them some more insight on what they may need to further explore interventions and cures. Perhaps a test can be developed to help determine to what level the Down syndrome disease will impact a specific child to help parents make a more informed decision as to whether or not a pregnancy should be terminated. As a society, we have developed technology that can help solidify the human race moving forward. We can now eliminate diseases and defects that, using more of a Darwinian approach, would take thousands, if not tens of thousands of years to eliminate. We can now do in a very short period of time. With that being said, the theory of neo-evolutionism is something that as a society can help take us further and should be further explored.